If you know me, we've met, we've done some work together, just wave at me. Okay, and if you're a little bit closer to me in work, we are going to do a 1, 2, 3. Are we ready? A 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you're still few. Okay. The CEO and the CAO, our mayor and the directors, I am humbled that I am here, and I dare to say I am humbled to be back home. When I'm training people to speak, sell, and influence, I always tell them, never apologize and never tell us that you're going to do a wrong thing. But today I'm going to put a disclaimer that the presentation I was supposed to make was supposed to be 1 hour, and I'm going to do 30 minutes. And for that reason, usually I don't remove things that I'm supposed to say. I am going to take you. Uganda alisema ina batu warachi? Ina batu warakusupidi. Hands up if you've heard of a gentleman called Barney Miles. Hands up. Okay, only our CEO. Barney used to be a Wall Street legend. Barney was a trusted financial advisor amongst the elites and the affluents in this world. To the celebrities, he sold millions and billions of dollars. To world banks. To the winners of the Nobel Prize. Bernard had promised people that on your investment, he assures you a return of 10% guarantee every year. And so, with his strategy of exclusivity, many people came to him. And he made seemingly many rich. In 2008, news came out that Barney actually never invested any of the money. Barney paid all the investors money of new investors. Barney, they trusted financial advisors to celebrities, Nobel Prize winners, to world banks, had never invested any money, but rather used to pay new investors money of old investors. And so Barney is known world over to have been the man with the biggest, largest Ponzi scam that has ever existed in history. But here's the thing. He only sold to the affluent. He only offered secrecy. You could not just access his investment company. You could not just invest. So I dare to say that Barney, other than Jesus, and maybe let's skip at Jesus. I thank Jesus. I would say he's the greatest salesperson that has existed on this planet. And then I am tempted to think that he's the greatest salesperson that has ever appealed to the affluent. Because Jesus started from the lowly. And then this reminds me of my lecturer at Law Development Center. He told us, from everyone, you have 2 lessons to learn. What to do and what not to do. From Barney, any salesperson who desires to sell to the affluent, you have lessons to learn on what he did right. Because I dare to say that it's only one thing he did do right: ethics and integrity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to tell you that today we are going to look at the A to Z of affluent markets. Good morning, Predation. How are you feeling today? I have been a member or a coach of the Grand Agency for some time, so I was tempted to say, who wins? And then I remembered that in another environment, such as and the group, you are doing, I don't know if it's a good service or a disservice to me. Let's do some reality check. Many salespersons, and I hope you're not one of them, are still selling riding on the law of averages. The law of averages suggests that the more you offer and the more you pitch, the higher are your probabilities to actually close. I'm not saying it ain't true. I am just saying that when you want to go the affluent markets, you are not only going to do the law of averages, because the law of averages is hard work. But we need to combine some hard work and smart work. Now, let me tell you something. More than a decade ago, in 2012, I was introduced to sales when I joined level marketing with Forever Living. 4 years later, I joined Prudential to sell insurance. And at that time, I was playing the law of averages. But I remember one scenario which I shared with the people who were a grand agency on. What was the day? Last week. 7th. Even I said the day. I didn't say the date. On Thursday, yes. I shared a story. When we were in Koloro, led by Wasser Daniel. And then a gentleman, smart and casual, drives in with a very new Range Rover. And then we started asking ourselves, by that time we used not to call them activations. We used to call them something else. I think work sites. So we're at a work site, this gentleman drives in where Pandento is. And then we start asking ourselves on the table, is he a driver or the owner? Because he was in Checked and what? And the car. And I think Bernard were there. And then Daniel tells me, turns to me and says, Apuuli, guess what? We only have one way to find out. And so, in his kind and polite way, he commanded that I do what? I follow. I get to the gentleman, I start talking to him, and then looks at me and says, Apuuli, don't tell me you're going to sell to me in a parking lot. And then I asked that I would see him later. And he allowed. To cut the long story short, I get there, I make my first $5 policy sales. And since then, every time he paid out, every time there is a payment out, I earned more than 5 million Uganda shillings. And that reminded me of the time I was studying at the insurance training college, and they taught us about the 88% fall. But unfortunately, I had to leave Prudential. Like I shared it with you on Thursday, my friend Jesus and I disagreed on that decision, but I still did what? Leave. Years later, yesterday I was sharing, whoever's increased the microphone, thank you, I felt like I was training. Years later, I was training, yesterday I was speaking to the Rotaract Club of Victoria University. And I told them that when I just joined this work that I'm doing, I offered a course called Fluency 101. I promised that I'll take you from fear to fluency. And I only needed $50, but I bought and sold. Right now, that same course, I sell it at $100. I have its accession product, I sell it at $300. And I have a little product, which is an accession of that, called Monetize Your Genius, where I teach professionals how to monetize what they know, the knowledge they have. And it's $1,000. And everyone still buys. Not everyone. Those who can afford buy, and those who desire to buy. And at the end of this year, we are launching a $10,000 offer. And we shall sell it, I assure you. Aren't we friends? Let's ask me. But how did I come to that realization? In my quest of wondering how can I make money easier and faster, I took up programs with Coach Myron Goldie. And then I realized the first way to make money, especially when we're in sales or in offerings, is to sell to the rich. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what we call sometimes the affluents. But here's the problem. I cannot be sure that all of us are at the same level of sales knowledge. So before we look at the affluent markets, let's first understand the segmentations of our buyers. Also together. So those who are my friends, we shall keep on doing the wake up. So let's prepare for the 1, 2, 3. Let's prepare for the 1, 2, 3. And all of us join. So when we say 1, 2, 3, what do we do? So all of us, please join. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 segmentations of any buyers. Number 1, we have buyers we call the utilizers. These are guys that buy because of quantity and price. They want to buy at the lowest price, but the highest quality. Sometimes they hardly question the quality. So you tell him that this shoe is 300,000, only he will ask, can I give you 50,000 and give me the other one, but give me 2 pairs? The utilizers. And then we have the second segmentation, the negotiator. If you've not yet qualified for MDRT, probably you're here with me, negotiator. We like the best quality, but at a very low price. So we can dare to pay more, but as we pay more, we actually want a better quality of something. These people usually disturb us. Or these people usually, we are the people that disturb others. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we have a group we call the prestigious buyer. Now, the prestigious buyer, to my friends here, is the person who only buys brand, trust, and circus. Because of the trust, they assume that the product you're giving them is actually worth. Because of the status, they may not even mind about quality. Have you heard of the argument that there are many phones that are far better than the iPhone? Have you heard that argument? How much do you think an iPhone 14 Pro Max, I have an iPhone 14 Pro Max, how much do you think it costs Apple to produce in China? They produce from China. It costed them $10. Mitwale satu. Moka sounds. Mobi time. And I paid my good painful $5 million for it. I'm not a prestigious buyer. I was just told I throw my phones a lot down so the iPhone will survive the phones. That's how I buy the iPhone. What I'm trying to say, the people who buy iPhone do not buy because other phones cannot take better pictures. Because I have to tell you, many Samsung phones take better pictures than iPhone. So when we say a prestigious buyer, now we have started talking about the affluents. And ladies and gentlemen, let me give you 3 promises. By the way, I should tell you I was given back my hour. Let me give you 3 promises. By the end of this presentation, I'm going to make you understand, or together we are going to understand who are the affluents. Number 2, we are going to appreciate why do the affluents buy. And number 3, we shall also understand why and where are the affluents. And when we, thank you. And the moment we know where the affluence is, where the affluents are, we shall then realize that it's actually not easy to get to them. So what are the barriers? What makes it difficult to get to the affluence? And finally, let's solve how do we sell and penetrate in the affluence markets. Are you ready for the ride? Are we ready for the ride? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We've looked at the prestigious buyer, and we say the prestigious buyer is the affluent we are looking at. But I want to tell you that when it comes to the affluence as well, we also have 3 classes of affluents. And some of you are telling Maggie that probably Maggie is becoming an affluent, so someone should start selling to Maggie. So we are going to look at the 3 affluents. We have someone we call the mass affluent. Now, the mass affluent is the guy internationally, international standards, a mass affluent is the guy that earns between, not earns, is worth between 100,000 US dollars to 1 million US dollar. Meaning in Ugandan money, that guy earns, is worth about 360 million to about 3.6 billion. And then we have the second class, one we call the high net worth individual. Internationally, this is the guy whose worth is between 1 million US dollars to 30 million US dollar. Ugandan standard, it means this guy is worth 3.6 billion to about 1 million and 8 billion. And then we have the guy we call the ultra high net worth individual. This guy is worth between 108 billions and above US dollar. It means he's between 30 million US dollar and above. How you sell to these 3 guys is different. Maria, different. Because their needs are different. So let's understand, how do you sell to the affluent? But before we understand how you sell to the affluent, we need to understand their needs. And I always tell people, to me, the biggest and the best scholar that has ever made us understand the needs of different people is Maslow, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you've heard of it. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you're going to move with me. Usually, I prefer that when I'm speaking, this thing goes off, but I think today it's different. I forgot. Let's keep it. So, the reason I always want graphics to be off, because I want your mind to follow me and be graphic enough. So let's draw a triangle. And with that triangle, when we start at the base, Maslow says every individual, except those who are planning kids, every individual starts at what we call physiological needs. This is when you desire to meet your biological and basic needs. Reproduction, food, drink, shelter. Reproduction is very important. When you reach at a certain point, you need sex, whether you want it or not. Because you don't send yourself, your body sends. Does that make sense? So at physiological needs, sex is part. We just say reproduction. The second level, from the first base, we go to what we call safety needs. Now, safety needs, this is where if you're not playing affluence, if you're not selling to the affluence, most of the people you're selling to are here. Now, these are people who are mindful of security, financial security, job security. They want some predictability of life. They want to know that they are away from crime and they are safe from wars. They want to know that tomorrow they will earn and tomorrow they will eat. Just security. And usually most middle class professionals and employees play here. And then as we go to the triangle, are we still seeing the triangle? We go to the next level. The guys we say are seeking what? Sorry? Love and belonging. Now we have started going to the mass affluence. Love and belonging, these are people who are seeking for companionship, community, and some kind of family. Just like my friend has said, that this is a time when people start looking for charitable organizations. Be member of Rotary. Be member of professional organization. Be member. You know, someone said that the top is what? Lonely. So when your family and friends leave you to be lonely, you start looking for where to find family and belonging. But also remember, this is a time when people actually care to visit their children at school, even when they don't care whether their children are fine. But if there is a gathering there, they will go. The second last level, as we are going towards the apex, we have esteem. Now, esteem, these are people who are seeking recognition. They want to be recognized in the societies they are. They want to be recognized in the marketplaces. They want to be recognized in the fields they're working. These guys, it matters that they have honorary degrees. Some of you have never thought of an honorary degree. You don't care whether you have it or not. I'm not saying you're not affluent. I'm just saying you have it yet care. Now, usually this is now where we are looking at the high net worth individuals. Remember, in law they say every general rule has an exception. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I see some of you are asleep. On phones. Okay, not asleep. I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say, these guys want to be recognized for what they've contributed to country and to society. The money has started stopping to be their work. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have the self-what? Actualize. Now, you know how they say when old people become too old, they start acting like babies. Now, these guys are self-actualization. Sometimes you find a number of them that act stupid. You know those guys, they tell that let's go and look for the Titanic in the ocean, and they go. And they pay a lot of money to be killed. Now, these people are just trying to do something that they feel like their potential can actually do. This is a guy, if you told him that your insurance policy is going to take him to space and actually desires to go to space, he will pay whatever he needs to pay. Because they want in the end to say, I kept, I saw, and I conquered. Worry is no longer about money. Worry is about whether they've utilized all their potential. and everything they could do. At this point, they're not playing money so that they become rich. At this point, they are just playing money so that they win. How can I make more and more? So if you do sell them and you show that they'll beat the competition, they win the gap, you have them. But now that we've understood the affluents, we've understood their needs, how do we sell to them? There's something we call the psychology of sales. The psychology of what? The psychology of what? Now, my friends, we say power. Power. Let's all join power. Power. So there's psychology of sales. The reason that's why I'm starting with the psychology of sales is to show you the basics and fundamentals when it comes to sales. Not just to the affluents. Because I might assume that all of you have done your best below there, and some of you actually don't know the basics. So, principle number one, the reciprocity effect. The reciprocity effect. It is suggested psychologically that when you give someone, they feel like giving back. If you want to sell to the affluents, find a way you give to them. And in this case, find a way you give them value for free. Because sometimes, because we're in a country where gifts are taken as corruption, you might give someone a gift and they think it's what? A bribe. Ask yourself, I believe, Ndugu Edgar is now an affluent. I just don't know which class. So ask yourself, if you're going to sell to Ndugu Edgar, what is his worry? Maybe his worry, and let me tell you, these are some of his worries. Maybe his worries, can his children take over and maintain the wealth he's going to leave them? At this point, if I am done, I go to Elite High School and tell them I want to bring a program which teaches financial literacy to students. And then at the end of the program, I challenge the children to do something that would require their parents' contribution. Not in the money, but they have something like it's like homework. And it's the parents that have to do that. Tuko pamoja? Maybe the challenge is you need to open a bank account, but you need your guardian to help you open the bank account. In the process, the child will tell the parent what they are gaining and who is helping them understand financial literacy. So next time, when you get them to come on board and you train them all together, you sell. I told you on Thursday, those I was with, I don't sell. I sell without selling. Now, the second principle is the principle that the brain likes simplicity and clarity. When you're going to speak to anyone, when you're creating a message, when you're creating a campaign, ask yourself, have you made your message, your offer, your pitch as simple and clear that when you leave, Margaret can repeat what you've told her to Jesus? When you achieve that simplicity, the next principle you need to appreciate is that people buy emotions, not logic. Some of you have mastered the product, the numbers, the justifications. People do not buy because it's good. People buy because they feel like it. So after they buy because of the emotion, now they look for logical reasons to validate why they made the decision. That after all, it's a good investment. After all, this is a very good thing. It will protect my investments. This is good for my children. But sometimes they bought because you're beautiful. So I need you to appreciate that people buy because of what? Emotions, not logic. How you make them feel is more important than how you make them think. And at this point, according to Aristotle, we are playing at a mode we call pathos, the emotional appeal of your message. When they get to validate, that's when we are playing the mode called logos, the logical appeal of your message or pitch. Principle number 4. People buy outcomes, not products. And I didn't say people buy benefits. Have I? When Steve Jobs was introducing the iPod, he didn't say this is a good replacement of a cassette. This will keep you a number of songs. This has a very high storage of 1 GB. He simply said 1,000 songs in your pocket. Full stop. Ask yourself, if I told you to create a message of what you sell in one line, would you? Expressing the outcome of your product. Not the features, not the products, not the benefits. Now, after we have worked on the principle of selling the outcomes, we now go to one of the most important principles. Jesus, trust in sales is a currency. Trust in sales is a what? A currency. Barney Madoff gave people so much reason to trust him that they gave him almost all their monies. That at the end, most retirees had lost all their savings. Charitable organization had to shut down. And if you can read about him, his victims took their lives, committed suicide because they couldn't see a way out. We're not talking about history. Madoff died in 2021. That is 4 years ago. Just here in COVID. So can you get your audience, can you get the affluence to trust you? And here we are talking about 3 things and 3 things only. Number 1, credibility. What do we know about you? Good, bad. Number 2, reliability. When you say, I'm going to deliver this quotation at 4 tomorrow, you deliver it at 4 tomorrow. Because now, when it comes to the affluence, they are frustrated with people they have led, people they've conducted business with, people they have dealt with. So when they start seeing you inconsistent, they start mistrusting. And lastly, relatability. Can you be empathetic and look from the other angle of theirs? When I was in sales here at Prudential, we used to move the people, and a client would say, I would have bought bats. And you say, that is an excuse, you see. Hey, you're not in my home. You're not on my bank account. To start with, first validate my reason. And first speak from my angle. Maybe today do not even make a sale. For the affluence, to start with, they have the money. Anytime they are going to, when you're still playing below, you're not sure whether they can actually afford. They have the problem, they have the need, but can they afford? But these ones, they can afford. So don't be in a hurry. Now try solve the problem that just solved. If they tell you, I am still in debt, maybe go look for debt management strategies. And if time allows, I'm going to show you a few things. Now, we've said trust is a what? A currency when it comes to sales. But for you to have that trust, you must have what we call social proof and authority. I know some of you have EFA on your t-shirts and shirts and you think that's your authority. Yeah, that matters in Prudential. Out there, we don't even know what the hell EFA is. So the only thing, recently I told Lady Rachel that the only thing EFA helps you with is to open a conversation of your Prudential and I see EFA. So what is what? EFA. And then but some of you can't even explain EFA. So again, I'm going to say, EFA is not what? Your authority. So ask yourself, have I mastered the art of telling stories to show people what I am saying is true and works? But at the same time, have I used different leverages for me to be there to publish what I am doing? Let me tell you, Madoff, he made his investment so popular but so secretive. So everyone would know about them, but he would tell you not everyone can join. So people used to fight to join. So what is your authority? You're good. I'm going to tell you at the end how social proof and authority makes it very easy to sell to the affluent. Then there's loss aversion and urgency. Psychology of selling suggests that make people feel like if they don't buy now, they're going to make a loss. Because let me tell you, people's fear of missing out, what you people call what? We call it what? FOMO, is stronger than their desire to gain. So if you can make someone feel like if I don't do it now, I am missing out. If you can make them feel like you don't know whether Prudential is anytime going to revise this product, probably. They're likely to tell you, hey, I hope we are still on. So can you create a sense of urgency? And as you create a sense of urgency, I want you to abide by the law of consistency. The law of consistency means, can you get someone to take one step? Those who were at Grand Ages on Thursday, Margaret shared a story where she said she went, met the affluent woman, and just told her to start investing in unit trusts. Simple. The next week, the woman called when it is her who wants. I don't know if you get my point. When you can get them to cooperate and open an account for their children, it's a leg in. The next steps, you guide. Always ask yourself before you leave there, which step can I let them take? In knowledge-based business, we call that first value. I come give you my Influencer Pro program. My Influencer program teaches people how to sell on stage. It is just 1.5 million. So, but when you join it, I give you community support for 3 months. And after the program, you're there for 3 months. After 3 months, I have helped you so much, but I want to exit you. Or otherwise, pay membership fee. But you got 3 months for free. So can you get someone to take at least one step? Number two, second last principle under the psychology of selling, the customer journey mindset. Customer journey mindset. What are the 3 steps a customer goes through to sell, to buy? Number one, you create awareness. Their mindset is there's a problem. So your job at level one is to show them that there's what? A problem. Second step is consideration. Your job is to make them think there are solutions. And lastly, decision. Your job is to make them wonder what is the right solution for me. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, the last principle is listening is real persuasion. You can even sell without saying anything. And I'm going to go back to Maggie. Maggie said when she met the affluent woman, she just sat and the woman talked. And she asked, so how did you make it? How did you act? So where is the problem today? And after she said, but I think in what you've said, you can do this. And she left. At that time, she was saying that story as she's thanking me for taking her through those strategies. I am bragging on so. But yes, she was saying that on the microphone, so I can repeat it. So in summary, for the affluent, there are 4 E's that you have to remember. Reasons why the affluents buy. 1, exclusivity. Feeling like they are special. This offer is only for them. This is only for what? For them. Not everyone qualifies. 2, expertise. Have you guys realized that the affluents respect authority? Huh? The gentleman I was telling you about, Wilson, when later I went to say to him, the moment I entered the office, he flapped off his laptop and went aside the table and said, yes, Apuuli. You meet the middle class. Oh, they broke like me. You know I am busy. So what were you saying? So when you're playing the level of the affluence, lies. Actually, I like what Jim Rohn says. Creating wealth is not mostly about the money you make. It's about the person you become. So most people who become affluent, they become something because of the process they've gone through. The third reason, the third E, why these people buy is experience, how you make them feel. You remember the emotional appeal we talked about? And lastly, the last E is evidence. Can you master data, numbers, and also testimonials? Data, numbers, testimonials. You do the pathos and play logos. But at the same time, testimonials help you to prove what we call ethos, which is about your credibility and authenticity, that I do this thing and I've done it for years. Some of you are almost doing a decade. It's Joram, right? So, quick one. Okay, I have 2 timekeepers and they are contradicting each other. So I'm going to stick to mine. The question is, where do we find the affluence? Quick one. They are in professional associations. They are in clubs, Rotary, libraries. They are in their students' games and leisure activities at school. They are online. One of the richest persons I know in my circles, every time I meet her, and he's worth billions. Every time I meet him, he tells me, I saw your TikTok video. And I can tell you, I have not sold to any rich person that has not invited me. No. So they're online. But also, we now have online influencers. These people are making money. You look at them, they're young and kids, but they're making money. Some of them in 1 month for endorsements and adverts and Some activities they participate in, they make 100 million. There are some who carry out activities, and in one activities in 3 hours, 4 hours, they've made 50 million. We have the rich abroad. There's a difference between Kadama and Vasama. So I'm talking about Vasama. Some of you could have been abroad, but you're Kadama, not Amsama. They're in government. In Uganda or Africa, let me say Uganda because that's where I know. In Uganda, this is where most money is made in politics, not in economics. So the affluents are in parliament. And for about 7 to 10 years, I was head of protocol in judiciary. So I managed them, and I can tell you, they have the money. But what bars us from reaching them? 1, access. They're difficult to reach. Some of them even have bodyguards. Number 2, skepticism. They hate salespersons because others defrauded them. And lastly, time. My coach tells me that the rich realize that time is more important than money, and so they use money to buy back time. They know the value of everything, and whereas we the poor know the cost of everything. And the value they find in time, they're not willing to give you time for free. That's why they would rather tell you, as I'm taking my leisure activity, come talk to me when I'm playing golf. So you just have to ask yourself, how do I get to them even with those barriers? So let's break the barriers. How do we get to the affluence? We are going to use only 6 leverages from Robert Kiyosaki. Leverage number 1, leverage of brand. I am not here because I am a friend to Rachel. Okay, now we are friends. But even when I was a friend to Chisozi, before I started branding myself, I don't remember him inviting me to treat or to coach. He knew me, didn't he? He had my number, didn't he? We used to do strategies of growing agencies together, and I used to tell him, I'm leaving. He used to tell me I'm growing an agency. She knows. He knows. We used to meet at, what is that restaurant I always talk about? The one up there, opposite Mabidizi. Terrace. So brand yourself, establish your position, your power, your proof, and lastly, your personality, so that people can like you, but also can tell the value you can deliver to them. When people can know the value you deliver to them, they are going to invite you to sell to them in the name of teaching them. Number 2, the leverage of systems. A few weeks ago, I was training the staff of Afros and more. And after the training, I talked to Lady Maggie, one of the proprietors, and she was asking me, how do I collect my leads? And I showed her that in 1 week, I'd collected over 300 leads from just TikTok. And I showed her my CRM system, and it was just Excel and Brevo. And she asked me, how much do you pay for it? And I said, I don't. And she told me, do you know how much we paid for the developer of our system? And it looks like it may not be as effective as yours. What I am saying, even when Prudential has a CRM, as an individual, you should have your own CRM. Client relationship management system. And then, number 2, you should have your sales funnel. When you meet a person who's still a suspect, what do you do to create awareness so that they become leads? And when they become leads, how do you talk to them so that they become prospects? And when they become prospects, how do they become customers? And when they become customers, how do they become clients so that they buy again and then pay their premiums and buy more products and later become your advocates so that they can be fine? Leverage of knowledge. You cannot be a financial advisor who does not understand that treasury bonds is lending the government, and at a appointed time, they give you back your money, but they don't give interest because they've been giving you interest after 6 weeks of that month. When you do not know that the unit trust is a collective investment scheme where you put money together, and some experts in investments invest this money in the assets, and at the right time, when they net money, they pay back the people who invested in the fund. That you do not know that one of your partners, YPA, is a crowd investment scheme where you put money and then they farm on your behalf goods. And in the return, they give you ×3 after 3 years. It means if your client had invested 100 million, after 3 years, they would have 300 million. that when they have 300 billion, you can now tell them, let's protect our wealth. Leverage of network. Who do you know? Some of you are like me. I have social anxiety. I've told Rachel before, I have very high social anxiety. Tell me to speak to 10,000 people, I am okay. Tell me to speak to 10 when they are there just chatting. I will hide myself the other side. But the problem is, some of you say, me, I don't care, you know, the people call wako, the else. Can we look for activities and places where we can network? Of course, I know these are the MDRT, so I don't expect anyone broke. But I'm saying, depends on who you're looking at and comparing yourself with. Leverage on people's time. Create and build teams. Not only teams that sell for you. I always tell people, when I'm talking here, that doesn't mean that there's no one to respond to my text, and doesn't mean that I don't have a digital assistant to respond to my TikTok. But also that doesn't mean that if you needed someone to take through a particular meeting, that there isn't anyone. They are people doing that, and one of them is in Kenya right now. So what I'm trying to say, at the same time, this is about creating strategic partnerships. Have you met the lawyers that handle the affluents? Have you met the doctors? Have you met the accountants? Have you met the influencers that actually influence the affluents? Because they are influencers who may not seem very important to you, because they are influencing about traveling to Maldives, and you don't think you're going to go to Maldives, but the affluent to go to Maldives. Because someone said they don't pay for their travels. Okay, what I'm trying to say, the affluents pay for their travels. Leverage of people's money. You imagine you create a financial literacy program for the children. They can't pay you to teach their children, but at the same time you sell them. You sell to them. As I am finalizing, remember, you can't do any of this if you do not master your communication skills. Because this is about selling and persuading, but it's also about leadership. And leadership, according to Jim Rohn, is about thinking, acting, and communicating so that you rally people in the direction you think is right. So master the art of selling, master the art of persuasion, master the art of selling without selling, and master the art of storytelling. Most importantly, master the art of selling on stage. I was going to take you through an offer I thought for you, but I do not have time. So allow me to near my conclusion. If you're still with me, let's do a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I want you to think 5 years from now, when you are still running after the affluents and begging them to give you time. As you're thinking about that rich person every time you've been wanting to meet, I want you to think of a time when he calls you and tells you, hey, Mira, we have a group of 10. Can you take us through treasury bonds, how to create wealth, but also how to protect our wealth? Remember, selling to the affluents is not about selling more. It is about selling better. Because at that point, we do not sell insurance, we sell peace of mind, we sell legacy, we sell protection. And legacy, that's why I've been talking, most of my examples have been about children. Most rich people are now worried about whether their successors will actually manage the wealth and the assets they will leave for them. I am going to challenge every one of you. After I have yacked successfully, in your notebook, write at least 5 people that you think are affluent and you've not yet reached, or you can reach. Don't care about whether they're within your circles. You can even write Sudil. I'm serious. Then 2, write a pathway that will help you reach them. Your sales funnel. What are you going to do? Do what you have written and leave the rest to God. You remember I told you what Angelo Maya says. Do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. And lastly, write a persuasive pitch of 2 minutes. 2. I know you can do 20 minutes. I just want 2. That can sell to them peace of mind, legacy, and protection. And for those who say, I would want to sell to the affluents, but it's hard. I do not have connections. If you're one of them, look at me. You do not have enough connections. There's a lady that could be known to some of you, and some people call her the Queen of Pop, and others refer to her as Beyonce. She says, for those who are among the group called the others, the group that never gets a chance to take center stage, I say, create the stage and make them see. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as I leave this podium, I beseech you to always abide in faith, in hope, in love. But remember, love protects. Good morning.